Greetings aspirants, welcome to the REwise series by CivicCentre IAS. Today in this video we will be discussing about the top current affair topics of December month 2024, and the discussion PDF will also be provided in the description, so please check it out. So now let's get into the topics. And here the first question is given about one nation one election, and now let's look at the statements. One nation one election means holding all the elections, national, state, local, on the same day to boost turnout and reduce the costs. And the second statement says that India had simultaneous elections until 1967, but they split due to political and admin challenges. And the third statement says that the USA and UK successfully hold simultaneous elections. And finally, simultaneous elections could sync political cycles, save money, and boost efficiency. Which of the statements given above are correct? So now here, before answering this question, let's get into the topic. See, one nation, one election means holding elections for Lok Sabha and state assemblies and local bodies, including municipalities and panchayats at the same time. Currently, these elections are held separately based on each body's term. Therefore, the idea is to have elections for both the center and the states simultaneously. So, voters would vote for both on the same day. And the first simultaneous elections in India were held in 1951, and this continued for the next 3 cycles. However, this practice was disrupted in some instances like Kerala and Nagaland, Puducherry. In addition to India, several other countries including Germany, Japan, Indonesia and the Philippines and Belgium also hold simultaneous elections. So India is not only the nation considering this approach. So now let's get back to our question. See, here the statements are: one nation, one election means holding all elections on the same day to boost and turnout and reduce the costs. See, this statement is correct as one nation, one election proposes the simultaneous election for Lok Sabha and the state assemblies and potentially also the local bodies to increase voter turnout and reduce the costs. So this statement is correct. And coming to the second statement, India had simultaneous elections until 1967, but they split due to political and admin challenges. This statement is also correct because India held simultaneous elections before from 1951 to 1967, but they were desynchronized due to the early dissolutions of assemblies and also the administrative issues they had that time. And now coming to the third statement, the USA and UK successfully hold simultaneous elections. See, this statement is incorrect because the USA and UK does not hold the simultaneous elections. And coming to the fourth statement, simultaneous elections could sync political cycles, save money and boost the efficiency. This statement is correct because simultaneous elections could align the political cycles and also reduce the election expenses and improve administrative efficiency more. So here the correct option is option A, which means statement 1, 2, 4 are correct. Now, coming to the next question. This question is assertion and reasoning type. So now let's see the statements. See, assertion is the number of judges in the Supreme Court has increased through amendments to the Supreme Court Number of Judges Act. And this is the assertion. Now coming to the reason. The original composition of the Supreme Court was 8 judges, which later increased to 34 judges. So which is the correct option? So now before answering this question, let's know about the appointment of Supreme Court judges. See, the appointment of Supreme Court judges involves several key aspects, including the composition and strength of the court. Now, the original composition of the Supreme Court consisted 8 judges with 1 Chief Justice and 7 others. And over the time, the number of judges has increased and the current strength stands at 34 judges, comprising 1 Chief Justice of India and 33 other judges. This increase in the number of judges has been made possible through amendments of the court, which is Number of Judges Act. Regarding the qualifications for the appointment of a Supreme Court judge, see, as per Article 124 Clause 3 of the Constitution, an individual must be a citizen of India and must meet certain criteria. Specifically, the person should have at least 5 years of judicial experience as a High Court judge or have completed 2 terms as a High Court judge. Alternatively, the person must have at least 10 years of practice as an advocate in the High Court or in 2 such courts. Additionally, a distinguished jurist recognized by the President may also be considered for the appointment. As for the appointment process, judges are appointed by the President of our India under Article 124 Clause 2. In making these appointments, the President consults the Supreme Court and the High Court judges to ensure informed decisions are made. So, now let's get back to our question. See, the assertion says that the number of judges in the Supreme Court has increased through amendments to the Supreme Court the Number of Judges Act, and the reason is the original composition of the Supreme Court was 8 judges, which later increased to 34 judges. See, here the assertion is true and the reason is also true because as we have discussed earlier, in the Supreme Court Act 1956, Originally, the set of judges was 8, including one Chief Justice and other judges, and through the amendments, it has increased to 34. And the reason is also true because the original composition was 8 judges, which includes 7 judges plus 1 Chief Justice, and it has increased to 34 via 2019 amendment lastly. And here, what's the correct option? See, option A says that both assertion and reason are correct, and the reason explains the assertion. And option B says that both assertion and reason are correct, but reason does not explain the assertion. And option C is assertion is correct, but reason is incorrect. And option D is both assertion and reason are incorrect. See here, option B is the correct answer, as both assertion and reason are correct, but the reason does not explain assertion because the reason states the factual change but does not explain why the number has increased due to the rising case holds or judicial needs. It's only happened, but the reason does not substantiate the assertion. So here option B is the correct answer. Now coming to the next question, match the following constitutional provisions with their requirements for the appointment of Supreme Court judges. See, this question is also based on the appointment of Supreme Court judges. Now based on the provisions, the details must be matched. See here, first one is Article 124 Clause 2, and second one is Article 124 Clause 3, third one is judicial experience, and also fourth one is advocacy experience. See, as we have discussed earlier, Article 124 Clause 2 says that judges are appointed by the President after consultation with the judges, so it matches with option C. And Article 124 Clause 3 says that the eligibility of the citizen, see, the person must be citizen of India and also 5 years as a High Court judge or 10 years as an advocate. So here it matches with option A. Means he must be the citizen of India. And coming to the judicial experience, he must be at least 5 years as a High Court judge or 2 High Court terms. So option B. And here the advocacy experience, which includes at least 10 years of practice as an advocate. So it matches with D. And the final answer here is option A, which says 1C, 2A, 3B and 4D. Now coming to the next question, consider the following statements regarding the impeachment process of judges. And here the statements are, a judge of Supreme Court or High Court can be removed for proved misbehavior or incapacity. And the second statement says that the impeachment process requires a special majority in both houses of parliament. The inquiry committee for investigating the charges consists of 3 members, 2 Supreme Court judges and 1 High Court Chief Justice. And the final statement says that once the motion is passed in both the houses of parliament, the president issues the removal order. So, which are correct? So now before answering this question, let's know about the impeachment of judges. See, the impeachment of judges in India is a process outlined in the Constitution under Article 124 Clause 4 for Supreme Court judges and Article 218 for High Court judges, which allows for the removal of a judge for proved misbehavior or incapacity. Although the term impeachment is not explicitly used in the Constitution, it refers to the removal procedure described in therein. So, the procedure for removal begins with the initiation of a motion, which must be signed by 100 Lok Sabha MPs or 50 Rajya Sabha MPs and submitted to the Speaker or Chairman. If the motion is admitted, an inquiry committee is formed consisting of a Supreme Court judge, a High Court Chief Justice, and a jurist to investigate the charges. If the judge is found guilty, the committee submits its report to the Parliament, where both the houses of Parliament discuss the motion. For the motion to succeed, it requires a special majority, a majority of the total members and 2/3 of the members present and voting in each house. If the motion is passed both the houses, the President then issues the removal order. So now let's get back to our question here. See, here the first statement says that a judge of Supreme Court can be removed for proved misbehavior or incapacity. So here the first question is correct because grounds for removal of Supreme Court judge is proved misbehavior or incapacity according to Article 124 Clause 4. So you need to remember this. And coming to the second statement, the impeachment process requires a special majority in both houses of Parliament. This statement is also correct as it requires a special majority of total membership and 2/3 of members present and voting in both the houses. Now coming to the third statement, the inquiry committee for investigating the charges consists of 3 members, 2 Supreme Court judges and 1 High Court Chief Justice. See here this statement is incorrect because the Judges Act, Inquiry Act 1968 specifies that a 3 members committee is formed, but the members include 1 Supreme Court judge, 1 High Court Chief Justice and 1 distinguished jurist. So here the option 3 is incorrect. Now coming to the fourth statement, once the motion is passed in the both houses of a Parliament, the President issues the removal order. So here this statement is correct because the president issues the removal order after parliamentary approval. So here the correct answer is option B, which says statement 1, 2 and 4 are correct. Now let's get to the another question. Which of the following statements are correct regarding the removal of the vice president? See here the question is asked about the removal of the vice president, and the statements are: the resolution for the vice president's removal must be in the Rajya Sabha. And the second statement says that the resolution requires an effective majority in the Rajya Sabha. And third statement says that a 14-day prior notice is required before the resolution can be moved. And the fourth statement says that the Lok Sabha's approval is not necessary for the removal of vice president. Select the correct option. See here, before answering this question, now let's get to our topic. See, the removal of vice president under the provisions of the constitution, which respect the vice president of India as the second highest constitutional authority following the president and acts as a chairman of the Rajya Sabha. The upper house of parliament, according to article 67, removal processes starts with the Rajya Sabha resolution for removal introduction, and the resolution must be passed with an effective majority, that is the majority of all the Rajya Sabha members, and the resolution has to be approved by the Lok Sabha with a simple majority once approved by the Rajya Sabha. See, now after that, moving the resolution also requires 14-day previous notice. Now let's get back to our question. See here, the first statement says that the resolution for the vice president's removal must be introduced in the Rajya Sabha. See, this statement is correct as the resolution must originate in Rajya Sabha according to Article 67 Clause B. And coming to the second statement, the resolution requires an effective majority in the Rajya Sabha. Yeah, this is also true because it requires effective majority of all the members of Rajya Sabha. And the third statement says that a 14-day prior notice is required before the resolution can be moved. This is also correct as a prior notice of 14 days should be presented. And the fourth statement says that the Lok Sabha's approval is not necessary for the removal of the vice president. See, this statement is incorrect because as the Lok Sabha approval is also needed, as the resolution should be approved by the Lok Sabha even after getting approved in Rajya Sabha with a simple majority in Lok Sabha. So even the fourth statement is also correct. So the option D is the correct answer, where it says that all statements are correct. Now moving on to the next question. Which of the following statements are correct regarding the leader of opposition LOP in India? See, the statements are: the leader of opposition must lead the largest opposition party with at least 1/10 of the total seats in the house. And the second statement says that the leader of the opposition is explicitly mentioned in the Constitution of India. And the third statement says that the leader of opposition is given the rank of a cabinet minister. So here the question is asked about the leader of opposition. So before answering this question, let's discuss about the leader of opposition. The leader of opposition is recognized as the leader of the largest opposition party that has at least 1/10 of seats in the house. And the primary role of the leader of opposition is to criticize the policies and offer an alternative government. And while the position was formally recognized by law in 1977, it is not mentioned in the constitution. The leader of opposition enjoys the rank and privileges of a cabinet minister, though this status is not constitutionally defined. And coming to the anti-defection law, according to 10th schedule, it disqualifies a lawmaker under certain conditions, such as if they resign from their party and vote against the party whip, or if independent members join party after elections. Additionally, they also nominate members who join a party after 6 months are also disqualified. The Representation of the People Act RPA 1951 states that a convention for 2 or more years leads to disqualification according to section 8 clause 3. And as for the authority of disqualification in cases involving the Constitution and the Representation of the People Act, the President consults the Election Commission. In anti-defection cases, the authority for disqualification differs by the legislature. In the Rajya Sabha, the chairman, vice president, while in the Lok Sabha, it is the speaker who approves the disqualification. And now in the state legislature, the speaker or chairman holds the authority. 1992 Supreme Court ruling clarified that speaker decision in the anti-defection cases is subject to the judicial review. So now let's get back to our question. See here, the statement says that the leader of the opposition must lead the largest opposition party with at least 1/10 of total seats in the house. So here the statement 1 is correct, as the leader of the opposition must lead the largest opposition party with 1/10, 55 in Lok Sabha, 25 in Rajya Sabha of seats as per the 1977 Act. So now the second statement says that the leader of opposition is explicitly mentioned in the Constitution of India. This statement is incorrect because the leader of opposition is not mentioned in the Constitution but is defined in the salaries and allowances of leader in the Leaders of Opposition Act 1977. Now coming to the third statement, the leader of opposition is given the rank of a cabinet minister. Yeah, this statement is true, as the LOP is accorded cabinet minister rank for salaries and perks. So now here the final answer is option A. Statement 1 and 3 are correct. Now moving on to the next question. Consider the following statements regarding the disqualification of lawmakers. Here, this question is also about the leader of opposition. So now let's look at the statements. A lawmaker is disqualified if they hold an office of profit or having foreign citizenship. Yeah, this statement is true because disqualification for office of profit or foreign citizenship is considered. And coming to the second statement, the anti-defection law disqualifies a lawmaker if they join a party after being elected as an independent. Yeah, this is also correct. As we have discussed earlier, anti-defection law disqualifies independents joining a party post elections or after the elections. And now coming to the third statement, the Representation of People's Act mandates disqualification for a conviction. So this statement is also true because according to the People Representation Act 19, Representation of the People Act 1951 mandates the disqualification convention within 2 years or more imprisonment. And the fourth statement says that the decision regarding disqualification under the anti-defection law is final and cannot be challenged in our court. So this statement is incorrect because the decision under the 10th schedule can be challenged in court. The decision is taken by the speaker or chairperson of the house, so it can be challenged judicially. So the answer is option A. Statements 1, 2 and 3 are correct. Now moving on to the next question. Consider the following statements. Here the question is in assertion and reasoning type. See, here the question is asked about the Uniform Civil Code. See, the assertion is the Uniform Civil Code aims to replace personal laws based on religion with a single set of laws for all citizens of India. And the reason says that the Uniform Civil Code is mentioned in Article 44 of the Constitution but is not legally enforceable as it is a part of the directive principles of the state policy, which is a correct option. Which statements are correct? So before answering this question, let's know about the Uniform Civil Code. See, the Uniform Civil Code aims to replace the diverse personal laws governing different religious communities with a single set of laws applicable to all the citizens, regardless of their religion. The idea behind the Uniform Civil Code is to promote equality and unity among the citizens of India. While the Uniform Civil Code is mentioned in Article 44 of the Directive Principle of State Policy, it is not legally enforceable. As a result, although it remains a goal for the state, it has not been made mandatory by law. So now let's get back to our question here. Here the assertion says that the Uniform Civil Code aims to replace personal laws based on religion with a single set of laws for all citizens of India. See, here the assertion is true because the Uniform Civil Code aims to replace personal laws based on religious and with a single set of laws for all citizens of India to maintain the equality. Among the citizens of India. So the assertion is true. Now coming to the reason, the Uniform Civil Code is mentioned in the Article 44 of the Indian Constitution. Yeah, this is also true, but it is not legally enforceable as it is a part of directive principles of state policy. This statement is also true, but what here is, see, now looking at the options, both assertion and reason are correct and reason explains the assertion. Both assertion and reason are correct, but the reason does not explain the assertion. And the option C says that assertion is correct, but reason is incorrect. Option D says that both assertion and reason are incorrect. Here option B is correct answer because both assertion and reason are correct, but the reason does not explain the assertion aim because of it stays about the Article 44 and directive principles of state policy, but the assertion is about replacing the personal laws. So option B is the correct answer. Now coming to the next question. See here, this question is also about the Uniform Civil Code. Match the states with the relevance to the implementation of the Uniform Civil Code. Here state and relevance is given. Now just look at it. Goa, Uttarakhand, Kerala, Jammu and Kashmir. And the relevance are became the first state to implement Uniform Civil Code post-independence and has had Uniform Civil Code since 1961. It is a state where UCC is under consideration, currently has a separate personal laws for Muslim. So here the answer is Goa had a UCC since 1961. So Goa matches with option B. And then Uttarakhand became the first state to implement UCC post-independence. So it matches with A. And coming to Kerala is a state where UCC is under consideration. So the Kerala matches with C. And Jammu and Kashmir, currently the Jammu and Kashmir has separate personal law for Muslims. So it matches with option D. And the final answer is option A. 1B, 2A, 3C, 4D. Now let's get to the next question. Here, Consider the following statements. Here this question is also about in assertion and reasoning pattern. So now let's look at the statements. The inner line permit was introduced by the British to separate tribal areas from the plains and protect British interests. And the reason says that after independence, the inner line permit continues to protect indigenous tribes by restricting outsiders from settling in these areas. So here the question is asked about the inner line permit. So before answering this question, let's know about it. See, the inner line permit was introduced by the British to separate the tribal areas from the plains, and it is required for Indian citizens from other states to enter or stay in the inner line permit areas. The states covered under this provision are Arunachal Pradesh, Nagaland, Mizoram and Manipur. And also the inner line permit system is based on the Bengal Eastern Frontier Regulation of 1873. And what are the purpose and what are the changes done to inner line permit? Let's know about them. The purpose and changes of the inner line permit have evolved over time, and originally its colonial aim was to restrict outsiders from entering tribal areas, protecting both tribal land and British interests. And after independence, the inner line permit continued to serve the purpose of protecting indigenous tribes from outside settlement, ensuring that their land and culture remained undisturbed. And regarding the ILP and Citizenship Amendment Act, the CA exempts ILP areas, ensuring that migration law do not affect the protected regions. In 2019, an amendment to the Bengal Eastern Frontier Regulation extended the ILP to Manipur, particularly in response to anti-CAA protests and further strengthening protections for the region. So now let's get back to our question here. The assertion says that the inner line permit was introduced by the British to separate tribal areas from the plains and protect British interests. And the reason says that after independence, the ILP continues to protect indigenous tribes from restricting outsiders from settling in these areas. See here, the both assertion and reasoning are correct, but looking at the options, both assertion and reason are correct, and reason explains assertion. Both assertion and reason are correct, but reason does not explain assertion. So here option B is the correct answer because it does not explain the British intent which is mentioned that and protect the British interests in assertion. So here option B is correct. Now moving on to the next question. Which of the following statements correctly highlight the difference between the clemency powers of President of India and the President of the USA? So here the question is asked about the clemency powers. So let's look at the statement first before going into the topic. The President of India can pardon state crimes while the USA President cannot. The President of the USA exercises clemency powers solely at their discretion, whereas the Indian President acts on the advice of Council of Ministers. So now let's look at the clemency powers. See, here in India, the President's source of power is outlined in Article 72 of the Constitution, while in the USA it is granted under Article 2, Section 2 of the Constitution. And the scope of Indian President powers extend both in union and state crimes, whereas here the US President power is limited to federal crimes and does not apply to the state level offences too. And regarding the death penalty, the Indian President has authority to pardon all death sentences, including those handed down by the state courts too, while here the US President can only pardon federal death sentences and cannot intervene in the state imposed ones. When it comes to the role of executive branch, the Indian President acts on the advice of the Council of Ministers as affirmed in the Maruram versus Union of Indian case. And in contrast, the US President exercises discretion independently of Congress or the judiciary here. And looking at the judicial review in India, it is limited to courts able to examine the process but not the decision itself, whereas in the US, judicial review is possible, particularly in the cases involving corruption or abuse of power. And now also look at the pardon power of President. The Indian President can grant clemencies in cases involving court marital sentences, death sentences, convictions under union laws, and this power is exercised based on the advice of Council of Ministers. And looking at the types of clemencies, first one is pardon, which is completely removes both conviction and punishment. And the second one is commutation, which is the replacement of punishment with the lesser one. For example, converting a death sentence to life imprisonment. And then comes the remission, which is reducing the duration of sentence but does not change in its nature. And then respite. See here, it awards a lesser sentence due to special circumstances such as pregnancy, for example, take as pregnancy. And then comes the reprieve, which states that temporary delays of the execution of a sentence. If death sentence is passed on, then they can stop temporarily. So now let's get back to our question. Which of the following statements correctly highlight the difference between the clemency powers of the President of India and the President of USA? So here the first statement is the President of India can pardon state crimes while the USA President cannot. See, this statement is incorrect because India President pardons union crimes, not state crimes. And it's governed by Article 72, which states that the India's President can pardon union crimes according to Article 72, but not the state crimes, which is governed by under Article 161. So it handles the state crimes. So, and here the US President pardons the federal crimes only, not the state crimes. So the statement 1 is incorrect. Now coming to the second statement, the President of the USA exercises clemency powers solely at their discretion, whereas the Indian President acts on the advice of the Council of Ministers. See, this statement is correct. So here the answer is option C. Now moving on to the next question. Consider the following statements. See, here the statements are given about the National Human Rights Commission, NHRC. See, the first statement says that the NHRC was established on 12th of October 1993. And the second statement says that the NHRC consists of 5 full-time members, 7 deemed members. And the tenure of NHRC members is 4 years or until 70 years of age. And the fourth statement says that the Prime Minister is part of 6 members committee responsible for NHRC appointments. So now here, before answering this question, let's know about the National Human Rights Commission of India. See, the National Human Rights Commission was established on 12th of October 1993 under the Protection of Human Rights Act 1993, which was amended in 2006. It is aligned with the Paris Principles 1991 for the protection of human rights. And looking at the composition of National Human Rights Commission includes a chairperson who is a former Chief Justice of India or a Supreme Court judge, and members which comprising of 5 full-time members and 7 deemed members. Regarding the appointment and tenure, the members including the chairperson are appointed by the President of India based on the recommendation of 6-member committee, and this committee consists of the Prime Minister, Lok Sabha Speaker, Rajya Sabha Deputy Chairman, leaders of opposition in both the houses, and a Union Home Minister. And the term for NHRC members is 3 years or until they reach the age of 70, whichever is earlier. So now let's get back to your question here. See, the first statement says that the NHRC was established on 12th of October 1993. This statement is correct. And coming to the second statement, the NHRC consists of 5 full-time members and 7 deemed members. This statement is also correct. And coming to the third statement, the tenure of NHRC members is 4 years or until 70 years of age. This statement is incorrect because the tenure is 3 years or until 70 years of age. And the fourth statement says that the Prime Minister is a part of 6-member committee responsible for NHRC appointments. And this statement is correct because Prime Minister is also a part of committee who is responsible for the NHRC appointments. Now moving on to the next question. See here, the topic is about Commission for Narcotic Drugs. So, the Commission for Narcotic Drugs was established in 1946 by the Economic and Social Council, which in short ECOSOC, and was expanded in 1991. Its headquarters is located in Vienna, Austria. The aim of the Commission on Narcotic Drugs is to monitor international drug control treaties and combat illicit drug production and trafficking, and it also ensures the availability of controlled drug substances for the medical use. And the membership of CND consists of 53 member states which are elected by the Economic and Social Council for a term of 4 years. And the Commission ensures the equitable geographical representation among its members. And looking at the functions of Commission on Narcotic Drugs include a normative role where it strengthens global drug policies and treaties, and an operation role where it oversees the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, in short UNODC, and it also reviews the policies and sets the budget and policy commitments, such as leading the 2019 Ministerial Declaration and reviewing progress in 2024 and 29. Now, coming to the next topic, see here, the next question is on the Finance Commission of India. See, the statements are: distribution of tax revenues between the center and states, advising on the distribution of resources for panchayats and municipalities, recommending grants in aid to states from the consolidated funds of India, and recommending changes in fiscal policy for the union government. So before answering this question, now let's know about the Finance Commission of India. See, the Finance Commission of India is a quasi-judicial and constitutional body. It's a quasi-judicial and constitutional body established under Article 280 of the Indian Constitution. See here, it is not a permanent body and is constituted every 5 years by the President, and the primary functions of the Finance Commission include the distribution of taxes between the center and states, recommending grants in aid to states from Consolidated Fund of India, and allocation of funds for panchayats and municipalities are also seen by Finance Commission of India, and it also addresses other matters referred by the President. And now looking at the recommendations of 15th Finance Commission, see, the 15th Finance Commission has made several key recommendations regarding the financial distribution between the central and states, and as well support for the local governments. One of its primary recommendation is the maintenance of vertical devolution at 41%, which remains consistent with its interim report for 2020 to 21, and it also aligns closely with the 14th Finance Commission suggestion of 42% of the divisible pool. And in terms of horizontal devolution, the Commission has proposed the following weightages for allocation among the states, which includes 12.5% for demographic performance, 45% for income distance, 15% each for population and area, and 10% for forest and ecology, 2.4% for tax and fiscal efforts. And these weightages aim to address the unique challenges and physical needs of different states. And here also the Commission recommended post-devolution revenue deficit grants, which is of about 3 trillion over 5 year of period ending in the fiscal year 2026. And these grants are intended to help states manage the gap between their current expenditures and also the revenue receipts. And here it includes both tax and non-tax revenues. This point need to be noted because here these grants has intended to help the state. So these are include both tax and non-tax revenues. And however, the number of state qualifying these grants is expected to decrease from 17 in 2002 to just 6 in 2026. And looking at the total transfer under the 15th Finance Commission, which encompasses both devolution and grants, are projected to account for around 34% of the union's estimated gross revenue receipts, and this allocation ensures that there is a sufficient physical space for center to meet its resources requirements and also the national development priorities. And for the local government, the Commission has proposed performance-based grants for both urban and rural areas. These includes grants for municipal services as well as specific funds aimed at promoting the development of new cities and improving health outcomes at the local level. And for the urban local bodies, basic grants are proposed only for cities with populations under 1 million, while million plus cities will receive 100% of their grants through the Million Plus Cities Challenge Fund. And this fund is contingent upon the performance of cities in improving air quality and achieving service level benchmarks in urban water supply, sanitization, and also solid waste management. Now, let's get back to our question here. Which of the following functions fall under the responsibilities of the Finance Commissions? See here, the first function is distribution of tax revenues between the center and state. Yeah, this is correct because the tax revenue distribution is done by the Finance Commission of India. And the second statement says that advising on the distribution of resources for panchayats and municipalities. Yeah, this is also true. And coming to the third statement, recommending grant in aids to states from the Consolidated Fund of India. This statement is also correct. Coming to the fourth statement, recommending changes in fiscal policy for the union government. This statement is incorrect as fiscal policy is not its role. So here the final answer is option A. Statement 1, 2 and 3 are correct. Now moving on to the next question. What role do government initiatives like Make in India play in FDI inflow? See here, FDI means foreign direct investment. So the roles they have given are they discourage foreign investments, they improve ease of doing businesses and attract more FDI, they focus only on attracting domestic investments, they reduce the tax rates for foreign companies but have no other impact. So before answering this question, first now let's discuss about the foreign direct investment. See, foreign direct investment refers to when an individual or company from one country invests in a business in another country, and it also in the form of establishing a subsidiary, acquiring a foreign company or forming joint ventures. And foreign direct investments plays a significant role in India, bringing non-debt financial resources, technology transfer, job creation, and government initiatives such as Make in India along with liberalized policies and the implementation of GST have further supported FDI inflows into the country. And when we look at between the April 2014 and September 2024, India received $709.84 billion in FDI, which accounts for the 68.69% of the total FDI received over the last 24 years, helping to integrate India into the global economy. And And key factors driving this growth include India's improved global competitiveness, with the country ranking 40th in 2024 and a rise in innovation moving from 81st in 2015 to 40th in 2023 on the Global Innovation Index. Additionally, India also ranks third globally in greenfield investments with 1008 projects in 2023 and has seen 64% rise in international project deals, ranking second globally. These developments highlights the significant strides India has made in creating a favorable environment for foreign investments. And the country's business environment has also improved, with its ranking in the World Bank's Doing Business report rising from 142nd in 2014 to 63rd in 2019, thanks to the regulatory reforms that have made India more attractive to the investors. And moreover, the policy reforms have been instrumental in fostering FDI, such as allowing 100% FDI in most sectors under the automatic route, and recent tax reforms including the abolition of angle tax and reduction in income tax rate for foreign companies. And these factors collectively contribute to India's growing role in global economic landscape. So now let's get back to our question here. What role do government initiatives like Make in India play in FDI inflow? See, here the options are: they discourage foreign investments, they improve ease of doing business and attract more FDI, and they focus only on attracting domestic investments, they reduce the tax rates for foreign companies but have no other impact. See, here the correct answer is option B, because Make in India improves ease of doing businesses through reforms in incentives or initiatives by the government and the infrastructure, which attracts more inflow of the income from the foreign. So option B is the correct answer here. So now let's move to the next question. See, here the question is also about the FDI. What is the link between FDI and India's competitiveness? And the options are: FDI improves India's global competitiveness and innovation, FDI has no impact on India's global rankings, FDI reduces India's competitiveness in the global market, and also FDI only benefits from foreign companies without improving India's ranking. See, here the answer is FDI improves India's global competitiveness and innovation. Now let's move on to the next question. Which of the following statements regarding the appointment of the RBI government are correct? See, here the question is asked about the appointment of RBI governor. So now let's look at the statements. The term of the RBI governor is typically 5 years and they are eligible for reappointment. The RBI governor is appointed by the President of India. The Financial Services Secretary is a member of the Financial Sector Regulatory Appointment Search Committees. And finally, the RBI governor is directly responsible for the operations of Securities and Exchange Board of India, in short the SEBI. So before answering this question, let's discuss about the appointment of the RBI governor. The appointment of the RBI governor is governed by the RBI Act 1934, which empowers the central government to appoint the governor, and the selection process is carried out by the Financial Sector Regulatory Appointment Search Committee, in short FSRACC. And here, which includes the cabinet secretary as a chairperson and the current RBI governor, the financial service secretary, and 2 independent experts. Once the committee shortlists candidates, their names are forwarded to the cabinet committee on appointments, which is headed by the prime minister for final approval. And the tenure of the RBI governor is typically 5 years with eligibility for reappointment. He can also be reappointed. And the governor's role is crucial in overseeing India's monetary policy and financial system. And as the custodian of India reserves, the governor heads the monetary policy committee responsible for managing the country's monetary policy. Additionally, the governor verifies the currency issued in India as legal tender and also facilitates the flow of credit to rural, agriculture and MSME sectors, and frames the policy for priority sector lending. And moreover, here the governor also controls operation under the Foreign Exchange Management Act and oversees all scheduled banks in India, ensuring the stability and integrity of the financial system. So now let's get back to our question here. Which of the following statements regarding the appointment of RBI governor are correct? And the statements are: the term of RBI governor is typically 5 years and they are eligible for the reappointment. See, here the first statement is correct. And coming to the second statement, the RBI governor is appointed by the President of India. See, here the RBI governor is appointed by the central government of India. So option 2, statement 2 is incorrect. Now looking at the third statement, the Financial Service Secretary is a member of the Financial Sector Regulatory Appointment Search Committee. Yeah, this statement is also true. Now coming to the fourth statement, the RBI governor is directly responsible for the operations of Securities and Exchange Board of India, in short the SEBI. This statement is incorrect, as RBI governor does not oversee the SEBI. It is a separate regulator. So now the correct answer is option A, which is statement 1 and 3 are correct. Now moving on to the next question. See here the question is also about the appointment of RBI governor. Let's see it. What is the primary role of the Financial Sector Regulatory Appointment Search Committee in the appointment of the RBI governor? And the options are to approve the shortlisted candidates for the RBI governor, to select candidates for the post of RBI governor, to recommend the reappointment of the current RBI governor, to supervise the work of the RBI governor. See here the correct option is option B, to select candidates for the post of RBI governor. Moving on to the next question. How does the process of appointing the RBI governor compare with the appointment process of the Chief Election Commissioner of India? See here, this is a comparative based question which compare both the appointment of RBI governor and the Chief Election Commissioner. So now let's look at the options. Here both the RBI governor and the Chief Election Commissioner are appointed by the President of India with no involvement from other bodies. And option B is both the RBI governor and the Chief Election Commissioner are selected through a committee process involving government officials and independent experts. And the third statement says that the RBI governor is appointed by the Prime Minister, whereas the Chief Election Commissioner is appointed by the President without any committee involvement. And the final statement says that the Chief Election Commissioner has a fixed term of 6 years, while the RBI governor's term is 5 years with no reappointment. See here, looking at all statements, all the options, option B is correct because both the RBI governor and the Chief Election Commissioner are selected through a committee processing involve government officials and independent experts. Now moving on to the next question. Which of the following statements regarding the India Skills Report 2025 are correct? See here the question is asked about India Skills Report 2025. So before answering this question, let's discuss about it. The India Skills Report 2025 created by VBox in partnership with CII, AICTE and AIU analyzes India's employability and its growth role in the global talent market. One of the key highlights of the report is the rising employability among Indian graduates, which has increased to 54.81% in 2025, up from 51.25% in 2024, and India's workforce is notably youthful with 65% of its under the age of 35, making the country well positioned to meet global workforce demands, particularly in the regions like the Gulf, Southeast Asia, Europe and also Africa. And in terms of sectoral strengths, Indian professionals are excelling in fields such as technology, healthcare, renewable energy and also artificial intelligence. The report also highlights key regional talent hubs with Maharashtra, Karnataka, Delhi, Pune, Bangalore and Mumbai being top regions for employable talent. Additionally, there has been an increase in diversity, with women now comprising 47.53% of employable workforce in India. To further enhance India's global standing, the report emphasizes strategic initiatives such as global talent mobility, focusing on quality training skill and also international certifications to meet global workforce demands. Furthermore, government programs like Skill India and the National Education Policy 2020 are playing a pivotal role in boosting employability through vocational and industry-focused education. So now let's get back to a question. Which of the following statements regarding India Skills Report 2025 are correct? See, here the first statement says that Indian professionals are excelling in sectors like tech, healthcare, renewable energy and AI. See, as we have discussed earlier, statement 1 is correct. And then comes the second option which says that the India Skills Report 2025 highlights that 65% of India's workforce is under the age of 35 years. See, this statement is also true. And now coming to the third statement, regional talent hubs such as Maharashtra and Bangalore contribute significantly to India's employability. This statement is also true. And now the final answer is option C, which says statement 1, 2 and 3 are correct. Now let's move on to the next question. Consider the following statements. See here the statements are given about ILO, which is International Labour Organization. So let's know about it. Global Wage Report 2024. See, the Global Wage Report 2024 has published by the International Labour Organization, which provides a detailed analysis of global wage trends focusing on changes in the wage inequality and real wage growth. In 2023, global real wage growth increased by 1.8% with projections of 2.7% for 2024. The report highlights significant regional wage trends, noticing that emerging G20 economies saw a 6.0% of rise in real wages in 2023, while advanced G20 economies experienced a decline of 0.5%. Additionally, the report underscores a decline in global wage inequality, which decreased from globally by 0.5% to 1.7% annually. Focusing on the Indian scenario, the report reveals that between 2008 and 2019, low-paid wage workers in India declined at an annual rate of 6.3% and low-paid non-wage workers declined by 12.7% annually. Currently, the share of low-paid wage workers, those earning less than 50% of the median hourly wage in India, stands at 9.5%, which is comparable to countries like Pakistan with 9.4%, Nepal with 10.5%, Bangladesh with 11.2%, and finally Bhutan with 13.7%, and much lower than Sri Lanka, which is 25.9%. The report also mentions like Palma ratio, a key measure of wage inequality, which compares the income share of the richest 10% to the poorest 40%. A lower Palma ratio indicates the lower inequality. Now let's know about ILO, which is International Labour Organization. The International Labour Organization, founded in 1919 as a part of Treaty of Versailles, is dedicated to promoting social justice and decent work. Based in Geneva, Switzerland, the ILO is unique as the only tripartite UN agency involving governments, trade unions, and employers in the negotiation process. And it has 187 member states, including India also, which has been a permanent member of the ILO governing body since 1922 and established its first office in India in 1928. India has ratified 6 out of 8 core ILO conventions, including those on forced labor, child labor, and equal remuneration. The ILO also publishes various reports such as the World Social Protection Report, Global Wage Report, World Employment and Social Outlook, and also World of Work Report. So now here let's get back to your question. Consider the following statements. The ILO was established as a part of Treaty of Versailles, and the second statement says that India has a higher share of low-paid wage workers than Bhutan, and the third statement says that the ILO has 187 member states, and the fourth statement says that the ILO publishes the World Employment and Social Outlook report. See here, all the given statements are correct as we have discussed earlier. So here the option D is the correct option, all of the above. Now coming on to the next question. Consider the following statements. Here the statements are given about Kisan Kavach. So before answering this question, let's know about Kisan Kavach. See, Kisan Kavach is Bharat's first anti-pesticide bodysuit, and it is a revolutionary innovation designed to protect farmers from harmful effects of pesticide exposure, such as breathing issues, vision loss, and even fatalities. It is developed by BRICS in Bangalore in collaboration with Sepio Health Private Limited. The bodysuit utilizes nucleophilic mediated hydrolysis to deactivate pesticides upon contact with the fabric, offering a unique and effective solution to this widespread problem. And also this suit is washable and reusable with lifespan of up to 1 year, and it is priced at 4,000 rupees with the potential of lower cost as the production increases. And now looking at its significance, the significance of Kisan Kavach cannot be overstated, as it is directly supports 65% of India's population farmers, and it safeguards their health and well-being. Furthermore, the bodysuit aligns with India's growing emphasis on climate resilient and sustainable farming, as outlined in various government policies. And also by reducing pesticide exposure, it prevents serious health issues, contributing to the overall betterment of agriculture workforce. So this is how the Kisan Kavach looks like. So now let's get back to your question here. Consider the following statements. Kisan Kavach uses nucleophilic mediated hydrolysis to deactivate the pesticides. And the second statement says that the suit is washable and reusable for up to 1 year. And the third statement says that the technology helps in preventing serious health issues related to pesticide exposures. As we have discussed earlier, all the statements given are correct. So option D is correct here. Now moving on to the next question. Consider the following statements. Here the question is asked in assertion and reasoning type, and it is asked about household consumption expenditure survey. So before answering this question, let's know about household consumption expenditure survey. See, It is conducted by National Statistical Office every 5 years to gather data on household spending patterns in both urban and rural areas. This data plays a pivotal role in calculating national statistics such as GDP, poverty rates, consumer price inflation. And the 2023-2024 Household Consumption Expenditure Survey report shows significant trends in rural and urban area spending. In rural areas, the monthly per capita consumption expenditure increased by 9.3%, reaching 4,122, up from 3,773 in the previous year. And this is a notable rise from 1,430 in 2011 to 2012. And also similarly, in urban monthly per capita income, it saw an 8.3% of increase, reaching 6,996 in 2023 to 2024, which is up from 6,459 in 2022 to 2023 and 2,630 in 2011 and 12. And the urban-rural gap has also narrowed to 69.7% in 2023 to 2024 compared to 71.2% in 2022 to 2023 and 83.9% in 2011 and 12, indicating an improving balance in consumption levels between rural and urban areas. And it's called Gini coefficient, which measures the inequality of the spending expenditure between urban and rural. So when analyzing spending on food and non-food items, here the rural households spend 47.04% of their expenditure on food, while urban households spend 39.68%. And conversely, rural households dedicated 52.96% of their spending to non-food items, while urban households spend a higher of 60.32% on non-food items. And this highlights the difference in consumption priorities between the two areas. And also in terms of top spending categories, food related spendings is dominated by beverages and processed foods, especially in rural areas at 11.09% and urban areas at 9.84%. And considering other key categories for both rural and urban household includes milk and milk products and also vegetables. For non-end expenditure, rural households prioritize conveyance, medical expenses and clothing, while urban households tend to spend more on conveyance, entertainment and rent. There are regional differences in spending, with states like Maharashtra, Punjab, Tamil Nadu, Kerala and Karnataka and Gujarat showing higher spending, while states such as West Bengal, Bihar, Assam, Odisha and Uttar Pradesh have lower spending levels. And now looking at the implications of these trends indicate faster consumption growth in rural areas compared to that of urban areas, with a notable shift in food preferences towards processed foods and beverages. And additionally, urban areas are seeing rising expenditures on rent and education, reflecting a growing focus on housing and educational services. So now let's get back to our question here. Consider the following statements, and here the assertion is given that the Household Consumption Expenditure Survey is conducted by the National Statistical Office every 5 years to collect data on household spending. See, here the assertion is true, as we have discussed earlier. It is conducted by NSO every 5 years. And now let's look at the reason. The data collected from the HCES is essential for estimating GDP, poverty rates and consumer price index. Here the reason is also correct, as it explains about it. The data is used for GDP, poverty and consumer price index. Now choose the correct answer. Here option A says that both assertion and reason are true and the reason is the correct explanation of assertion, and option B says that both assertion and reason are true but reason is not the correct explanation for assertion, and option C says that assertion is true but reason is false, and option D says that assertion is false but reason is true. So now the correct answer here is option A, which is both assertion and reason are true and the reason is the correct explanation of assertion. Why? Because the reason explains the why HCES is conducted by NSO. So now let's move on to the next question. See, here the question is also given about the household consumption expenditure survey, but it is given in Gini coefficient, about Gini coefficient. So now let's look at the question. The Gini coefficient for consumption expenditure is a measure of inequality. Yeah, true. For rural areas, 0.266% to 0.237 in 2023 and in 2024, and for urban areas in 2022 to 2023 it is 0.314 and it has declined to 0.284 in 2023 to 2024. Which of the following statements is correct based on the data? See, as we have discussed, the Gini coefficient is a measure of inequality in between the rural and urban areas. So as according to the given data, which of the given statements are correct? I mean the options are which of the given option is correct. Now let's look at the option first. Option A says that consumption inequality has increased more in rural areas than in urban areas. And option B says that the decline in Gini coefficient suggests a reduction in consumption inequality in both rural and urban areas. And option C says that the Gini coefficient measures economic growth, not inequality. And option D says that the Gini coefficient remains unchanged for both rural and urban areas. So here the correct option is option B. It shows the decline in the Gini coefficient suggests a reduction in consumption inequality in both rural and urban areas. As we can see, for rural areas it was 0.266, which has reduced to 0.237, and also in urban areas it is reduced from 0.314 to 0.284. And here in the year of 2020, 23, 2024, there is a less difference when compared to the previous one. So here the decline in Gini coefficient suggests a reduction in consumption inequality in both rural and urban areas. Now let's move on to the next question. Consider the following statements. Here the question is also in assertion and reasoning format. So the question is asked about the Jalwahak scheme. So before answering this question, let's know about the Jalwahak scheme here. The Jalwahak scheme aims to promote cargo movement of India's national waterways 1, 2 and 16, and reduce logistics cost, improve efficiency. And also under this scheme, cargo owners using private vessels, not just those operated by IWAI and ICSL, are eligible for reimbursement of up to 35% of operating expenses for cargo movement over 300 kilometers. And the scheme targets shipping companies and also freight forwarders and trade bodies, and is set up to run for duration of 3 years. And this initiative is expected to reduce congestion and optimize supply chains by encouraging more freight to be transported via water, which is more sustainable and cost-effective mode of transport. And as a part of improving cargo transport, the fixed day scheduled sailing services aims to ensure efficient and reliable transport along the waterways. And also here, the service operates on key routes like NW1 on Ganga River with cargo transport from Kolkata to Patna, which is of 7 days, and Patna to Varanasi of 5 days, and Kolkata to Varanasi 14 days, and on the national waterways 2, which is on Brahmaputra River with cargo transport from Kolkata to Pandu on 18 days and Pandu to Kolkata in 15 days. And these services are operated by ICSL and provide regular freight services at set schedules. And looking at the achievements of this initiative have been impressive, with cargo growth rising from 18.07 MMT in 2013 to 14 to 132.89 MMT in 2023-2024, marking a 700% of growth. And the government has set ambitious future goals, including a target of 200 MMT by 2030 and 500 MMT by 2047 to support the Atmanirbhar Bharat vision. Additionally, there is a goal to achieve 800 million ton kilometers by 2027 with an investment of 95.4 crores. And also this development of key national waterways such as NW1 on Ganga River, NW2 on Brahmaputra River, NW16 on Barak River, and the IBP route is aimed at strengthening regional trade and bolstering India's logistics network. So now let's get back to our question here. And the assertion is the Jalwahak scheme aims to promote the cargo movement on national waterways and reduce the logistic cost. Yeah, here the first assertion is correct. And looking at the reason, the scheme provides reimbursement of up to 35% of operating expenses for cargo over 300 kilometers using private vehicles. See here the reason is also true, and choose the correct answer. Choose the correct option here. Option A says that both assertion and reasons are true, and the reason is correct explanation of the assertion. Option B says that both assertion and reason are true, but the reason is not correct explanation for the assertion. And option C says that the assertion is true, but the reason is false. And option D is the assertion is false, but the reason is true. See here the correct answer is option A. Both assertion and reason are true because the reason explains how the scheme achieves its aim. Now, let's get to another question here. Compare the Jalwahak scheme. See here the question is also on Jalwahak scheme. Let's look at the question now. Compare the Jalwahak scheme with the fixed day scheduling sailing services. Here the question is in comparative question. So, Let's look at the option. Option A says that both aim to promote cargo movement and reduce costs, but Jalwag scheme applies only to private vessels while scheduled sailing services is managed by ICSL. Option B says that both schemes exclusively target government-owned vessels with no private involvement. And here option C also says that the Jalwag scheme is focused on routes only in NW National Waterways 1, whereas the scheduled sailing service applies to all national waterways. And the option D is the Jalwag scheme offers financial incentives while the scheduled sailing services focuses only on cargo transportation. As we have discussed earlier, here option A is correct because Jalwag incentivize private vessels and scheduled sailing is managed by ICSL for fixed routes. So now let's get to another question. See here, the topic is about de-dollarization. So now let's know about de-dollarization. De-dollarization refers to the process of reducing reliance on the US dollar for international trade, reserves and also accounting. In recent years, several countries including India, Brazil, Russia, China and Indonesia have been moving towards using their local currencies for trade, reducing their dependence on the dollar. And India's approach includes invoicing of trade in Indian rupees, especially in deals with countries like Russia. And the Reserve Bank of India has stated that while India isn't actively pursuing de-dollarization, it is working to reduce risks associated with geopolitical tensions. And this shift has also been a topic of discussion at the BRICS Summit 2024, where the potential for a common BRICS currency was explored. There are several reasons driving the global trend towards de-dollarization. Now let's look at them. The first key motivation is to reduce exchange rate risks, as local currencies can mitigate exposure to fluctuations in the dollar's value, and also additionally de-dollarization provides monetary independency, allowing countries to have greater control over their economic policies without external influence from the US dollar. And it also offers the geopolitical benefits as reducing dependency on the dollar, which can help nations avoid the vulnerability to US dollar based sanctions. And however, de-dollarization possesses challenges, particularly in the realm of global trade, and many key commodities such as oil are still priced in US dollars, making a widespread shift to local currencies difficult. And here, moreover, a significant reduction in the use of the dollar could lead to financial instability, potentially causing currency volatility and also exacerbating debt issues for countries heavily reliant on the external financing in dollars. Now, let's get to the next question. Compare the benefits and disadvantages of sovereign gold bonds. So do not confuse it with the sovereign green bonds, which we have discussed in August video. Here the question is asked about the sovereign gold bonds. So now before answering this question, let's know about what are the sovereign gold bonds. See, sovereign gold bonds were launched in November 2015 with the objective of reducing the demand for physical gold and promoting gold as a financial investment. And the bonds are issued by the Reserve Bank of India on behalf of the Government of India here. And they are available for purchase through various channels such as banks, Stock Holding Corporation of India Limited, and also Central Securities Clearing Corporation, post offices, and exchanges like NSE and BSE, National Stock Exchange and Bombay Stock Exchange. And the bonds are available to a wide range of investors, including individuals, Hindu undivided families, trusts, universities, and charitable institutions. And the price of the bond is based on the prevailing market price of 999 purity 24 karat gold, and the minimum investment is 1 gram here, while the maximum limit is 4 kg per year for individuals or Hindu undivided families and 20 kg per year for trusts. And the maturity period of these bonds is 8 years with an option for early exit after 5 years. And the investors can earn interest of 2.5% per annum paid semi-annually. However, the interest income is taxable, while there is no capital gain tax on redemption for individuals, making it an attractive investment option for long-term savers. And now looking at the benefits here, the benefits of sovereign gold bonds include no storage risk or cost, which is a concern with physical gold. But here there is no risk of the storage, and also the exemption from capital gain taxes on redemption, and the ability to pledge the bonds as collateral for loans. On the downside of this, the bonds are considered a long-term investment, meaning they lack immediate liquidity. And moreover, here the low trading volume on stock exchanges can make early exit difficult for investors who wish to liquidate their bonds before maturity. So now let's get back to our question. Compare the benefits and disadvantages of sovereign gold bonds. Here the option A is Sovereign gold bonds offer no storage risk and can be used as collateral for loans, but they are long-term investment with limited liquidity. And option B is sovereign gold bonds offer easy liquidity, high trading volumes, and the ability to invest in physical gold without storage risk. And option C is sovereign gold bonds offer a higher interest rate compared to physical gold but carry immediate tax liabilities and no capital gain tax on redemption. And option D is sovereign gold bonds can be quickly traded on stock exchanges without any limitations, offering easy liquidity. As we have discussed earlier, option A is correct answer because they offer no storage risk and can be used as collateral for loans, but they are long-term investment with limited liquidity. So now let's get back. Now let's move on to the next question. Which of the following statements correctly highlights the key difference between EPFO 3.0 and the previous system of managing provident funds? So here, as we can see, the question is asked about the Employment Provident Fund Organization. So before answering this question, let's know about the Employment Provident Fund Organization 3.0. See, the Employment Provident Fund Organization was established under the Employers Provident Fund and Miscellaneous Provisions Act 1952 with the primary goal of administering social security schemes for employees in India. And it operates under the Ministry of Labour and Employment and Government of India, and it is responsible for managing the Employees Provident Fund and also Employees Pension Scheme and Employees Deposit Linked Insurance Scheme. Additionally, EPFO has bilateral agreements with other countries to facilitate social security benefits for Indian workers abroad too. And here the EPFO 3.0 introduces several key features aimed at providing the user experience and enhancing the accessibility of the social security benefits provided by the organization. And one of the notable features is the ATM card for withdrawals, which allows employees directly access their EPF savings from the ATMs. And the organization has also embraced digital process to minimize the paperwork, making account management more efficient and seamless for employees. And faster withdrawals are now possible with new rules designed to allow quicker access to EPF savings during the emergencies, thus providing much needed financial relief in the times of need. Another significant change under EPFO 3.0 is the removal of the contribution cap, which was previously set at 15,000. Now employees can contribute the EPF based on their actual pay, ensuring a more accurate reflection of their income. And furthermore, the centralized pension payments will begin in January 2025, allowing employees to receive pensions under the Employees Pension Scheme from any bank branch across India, enhancing convenience and accessibility for pensioners nationwide. So now let's get back to our question. Which of the following statements correctly highlights the key differences between EPFO 3.0 and also the previous system of managing provident funds? Here, see, it's a comparative question of the present EPFO 3.0 and the previous one. So now let's look at the options. EPFO 3.0 allows direct PF withdrawals via ATMs, while the previous system required physical visits to the EPFO offices. See here, the first statement is correct as it allows the ATM withdrawals, but the previous one doesn't. And EPFO, now coming to the second statement, EPFO 3.0 integrates with UPI apps, a feature not available in the previous system. Yeah. This is incorrect because there is no UPI integration confirmation in EPFO 3.0 yet. And now coming to third statement, EPFO 3.0 process transactions in real time, eliminating the need for manual claim processing unlike the previous system. Yeah, this statement is correct as real time processing replaces the manual claims here. And coming to statement 4, the previous system offered a mobile app for PF account management while EPFO 3.0 does not. See here, it is incorrect because EPFO 3.0 includes the app features but not the previous one. So here the correct option is option C, which says statement 1 and 3 are correct. Now let's move on to the next question here. Match the following monetary policy tools with their respective effects. So here the question is asked about the repo rate and cash reserve ratio. So now let's discuss about it and then come to the question. Now coming to the repo rate first. Repo rate is the interest rate at which the Reserve Bank of India lends money to commercial banks, and it is primarily purpose to control the liquidity, inflation and economic growth. And also when commercial banks face a shortage of funds, they borrow money from the RBI, repaying with interest at repo rate. An increase in the repo rate makes borrowing more expensive for banks, helping to control inflation by reducing the money supply. And conversely, a decrease in repo rate makes borrowing cheaper, stimulating economic growth by encouraging more loans and also investments. And now looking at the impact of the repo rate, its impact on the economy is direct, and a higher repo rate leads to higher loan interest rates while it reduces borrowing. And also while the lower repo rate leads to lower loan interest rates, encouraging more borrowing. And here now coming to the cash reserve ratio, it is a percentage of bank's total deposit that it must keep with the RBI in the form of reserves, and its primary purpose is to manage liquidity and maintain financial stability in the banking system. And the cash reserve ratio cut increases the amount of money banks can lend out, thus boosting economic activity. And on the other hand, a cash reserve ratio increase limits lending capacity, helping to control inflation by reducing the money supply in the economy. So now let's get back to your question here. Match the following monetary policy tools with their respective effects. And here the first one is repo rate increase, second one is repo rate decrease, and the third one is CRR increase, which is cash reserve ratio, and fourth one is CRR cut. So match this with the explanations given. See what happens if repo rate increases. See, it makes borrowing expensive, helping control inflation. So one matches with the B. And what happens if a repo rate decreases? It makes borrowing cheaper and stimulates the economic growth. Here one matches with B and two matches with A. And let's look at the next one, CRR increase. What happens if cash reserve ratio increases? It limits lending, which helps in control of inflation. So it matches with D. And the fourth one, CRR cut, matches with C, which says banks have more money to lend, boosting economic activity. So here the correct option is option. So here the correct option is option A, which is 1B, 2A, 3D and 4C. Now let's move on to the next question. Consider the following statements regarding traditional diammonium phosphate DAP and nano DAP. So here the question is asked about the diammonium phosphate and also the nano DAP. So before answering this question, let's get into the topic. The diammonium phosphate is a nitrogen-based phosphorus fertilizer made by combining ammonia and the phosphoric acid here, and it contains 46% of phosphor, which is essential for root development and flowering, and 18% of nitrogen, which supports overall plant growth and leaf development. And DAP is typically applied before or at sowing to encourage early root development. And here the phosphorus is particularly important for building strong root systems, which help the plants efficiently absorb water and nutrients from the soil. And while coming to nano DAP, it is a newer version, a liquid form of DAP that was launched by IFFCO in 2023, and it also contains 8% of nitrogen, 16% of phosphorus, offering more effective results than the traditional granule DAP due to its enhanced absorption and efficiency. And also in terms of global production, the top producers of DAP are China, Morocco and Russia, which dominate the international market in the production and also export of this vital agriculture input. So now let's get back to our question here. Consider the following statements regarding the traditional diammonium phosphate and the nano DAP. The first statement is nano DAP has a particle size of less than 100 nanometers, providing a larger surface area compared to traditional DAP. And the second statement is traditional DAP has a higher nutrient utilization efficiency than the nano DAP. And third statement is nano DAP releases nutrients more slowly than the traditional DAP. And the fourth one is nano DAP has been found to increase wheat yield as compared to traditional DAP according to the recent studies. So here statement 1 is correct because nano DAP has a particle size of less than 100 nanometers, providing a larger surface area compared to traditional DAP as it absorbs more water than when compared to traditional DAP. Statement 1 is correct. And traditional DAP has higher nutrient utilization efficiency than the nano DAP. This statement is incorrect because nano DAP has higher efficiency when compared to the traditional DAP. Coming to the third statement, nano DAP releases nutrients more slowly than the traditional DAP. Yeah, this statement is correct because the nano DAP releases nutrients more slowly when compared to the traditional diammonium phosphate. And coming to the fourth statement, nano DAP has been found to increase wheat yield as compared to the traditional DAP according to the recent studies. Yeah, this statement is also true because studies show the increased yields when compared to traditional DAP in nano DAP. So here the correct option is option D, which says statement 1, 3 and 4 are correct. Now moving on to the next question. Select the correct combination of statements regarding rupee Vastro account and special rupee Vastro account. See here the question is asked about the rupee Vastro account and special rupee Vastro account. So before answering this question, let's know about them. Rupee Vastro account is an account held by a foreign bank with an Indian bank denominated in Indian rupees. and this account allows foreign banks to conduct transactions in Indian rupees, facilitating trade in financial operations between India and other countries. And coming to special rupee Vastro account, it is a more specific variant designed to promote international trade in Indian rupees and reduce the reliance on foreign currencies like US dollar. Under this agreement, Indian importers make payments in Indian rupees into special rupee Vastro account of a foreign bank, and the funds are then used to pay Indian exporters in INR. So what's the key difference between the rupee account and special rupee Vastro account? See, the special rupee Vastro account and standard rupee Vastro accounts include approval processes, in which the special rupee Vastro account requires approval from Reserve Bank of India, whereas standard Vastro accounts do not require. And additionally, while the special rupee Vastro accounts are primarily used for settling trade transactions, standard Vastro accounts are used for general banking operations, and this makes special rupee Vastro accounts more tailored for trade specific purposes in Indian rupees. So now let's get back to your question here. See, the question is asked like this: select the correct combination of statements regarding rupee Vastro account and special rupee Vastro account. And the statement 1 is, a rupee Vastro account allows foreign banks to conduct transactions in Indian rupees. And the second statement is, the special rupee Vastro account is specifically for settling trade transactions in Indian rupees. And the third statement says that standard Vastro accounts do not require approval from Reserve Bank of India, unlike special rupee Vastro account. And the fourth statement is, special rupee Vastro accounts are used for general banking operations. See, as we have discussed earlier, the first statement is correct because Vastro accounts allows the transactions in Indian rupees, while the second statement is also correct because the special rupee Vastro accounts are used for trade settlement in Indian rupees. And the third statement is correct because standard rupee Vastro account do not require RBI approval, while special rupee Vastro accounts require RBI approval, as we have discussed earlier. And coming to the fourth statement, it is incorrect because the special rupee Vastro accounts are trade specific but not for general banking operations. So here the correct answer is option A, which says that statement 1 and 2 are correct. Now moving on to the next question. Which of the following statements about China's Brahmaputra Dam project is true? So here the question is asked about China's Brahmaputra Dam project. So before answering this question, let's know about the China's Brahmaputra Dam project. See, China's Brahmaputra Dam project located on the Yarlung Zangbo River, which is also known as Brahmaputra. And in Tibet, it is said to become the world's largest hydropower dam. And the project, which is part of China's 14th five-year plan, has total cost of US dollars 137 billion. And the dam will be built in a vast gorge in Tibet, where the river has a vertical drop of 2000 meters over 50 kilometers. And the dam is expected to generate 300 billion kilowatts of electricity annually, which could generate power around 300 million people, 3 times more than the Three Gorges Dam, China's largest hydropower project. And in terms of investment, the project will require advanced technologies and complex engineering, including tunnel construction to divert the river's flow. And also this project holds significant strategic importance for China, as it is enhance the energy security and contribute to the nation's goals of carbon neutrality. However, the project has raised concerns for neighboring countries, particularly in India and Bangladesh. India is worried that China's control over the river's water flow could negatively affect the water supply downstream, potentially causing flood risks and influencing the flow into India and Bangladesh. Additionally, the dam's proximity to Arunachal Pradesh, a sensitive region, heightens the strategic concerns. And in response, India has initiated plans to build its own dam in Arunachal Pradesh, and diplomatic discussions regarding the management of trans-border rivers are ongoing. While the project promises energy benefits and could support the development of Tibet, it also brings ecological risks, challenging in the region's engineering, and has the potential to strain relations between China, India, and Bangladesh. The long-term environmental impacts and geopolitical tensions make this a highly complex and significant development. So, after discussing this, now let's get back to your question. Which of the following statements about China's Brahmaputra Dam project are true? So here the option is, it will be the largest hydropower project in the world in terms of power generation capacity. And the second option is, the project will generate sufficient power to meet the energy needs of approximately 500 million people. And the third option is, the project will be located in Tibet, far away from the Indian border. And the fourth option is, it will reduce China's dependence on renewable energy sources like wind and solar power. So here the correct option is option A, because it's a planned as the world's largest hydropower project with capacity of 60,000 megawatt. Now moving on to the next question. which of the following international frameworks could potentially play a role in managing transboundary water disputes like the one related to China's Brahmaputra Dam? And the options are the World Trade Organization, the United Nations Water Courses Convention, the Paris Climate Agreement, the ASEAN Regional Forum. And here the answer is option B, the United Nations Water Courses Convention. Now moving on to the next question. The Suez Canal is the shortest maritime route between which of the following two regions? So here the question is asked about the Suez Canal. Before answering this question, let's get into the topic. Suez Canal is an artificial sea level waterway that runs north to south across the Isthmus of Suez in Egypt, connecting Mediterranean Sea to the Red Sea, and it serves as a vital link between Europe and Asia, being the shortest maritime route between Europe and the Indian and Western Pacific Oceans. Geographically, the canal holds significant importance as it separates Africa from Asia and also divides Sinai Peninsula from the rest of Egypt. And this strategic location has made the canal an essential passage for global maritime trade. And in terms of trade and economic significance, the Suez Canal handles over 12% of global trade by volume. And it is specifically crucial for the transportation of oil, natural gas and cargo shipments with goods moving from east to west and vice versa. The canal is considered one of the most critical waterways in the world, playing a key role in facilitating international trade and global supply chains. Now let's get back to our question. The Suez Canal is the shortest maritime route between which of the following two regions? And here the options are Europe and the Indian and Western Pacific Oceans, the Mediterranean Sea and the Atlantic Ocean, Africa and the Indian Ocean, Asia and Europe. So as we have discussed earlier, here option A is correct answer, which is Europe and Indian and Western Pacific Oceans. Now moving on to the next question. Which is the primary economic importance of the Suez Canal? So here they are asking about the primary economic importance of the Suez Canal. And here the options are, it serves as the main trade route for oil between Europe and the United States. And option B is, it handles over 12% of global trade by volume, especially crucial for oil and natural gas shipments. And third option is, it is used primarily for military transportation between Egypt and Saudi Arabia. And the fourth one is, it facilitates the transit of goods from the United States to Japan. So here the correct option is option B. It handles over 12% of global trade by volume and especially crucial for oil and natural gas shipments. Now moving on to the next question. Which energy resources is Russia a key supplier of India? So here the question is asked about the international relations between India and Russia. So before answering this question, let's know about the India-Russia Trade and Strategic Cooperation. See, India and Russia's Trade and Strategic Cooperation has witnessed significant growth and expansion over past few years, particularly in terms of trade and economic relations. Bilateral trade between the two nations have increased fivefold in last 5 years, with India emerging as Russia's second largest economic partner. Then who is the first one? China is the first economic partner of Russia. And the key areas of cooperation between India and Russia include connectivity and transport, with major projects like the International North-South Transport Corridor and the Chennai-Vladivostok Corridor and the North Sea route aimed at enhancing trade and transportation links. In the aviation sector, Russia has plans to increase flights to India, with Aeroflot currently operating 12 flights a week. And on the energy and resource security front, Russia plays a crucial role as a supplier of essential resources such as crude oil, coal, uranium, and fertilizers to India. The ongoing nuclear cooperation between two countries is further solidified by Kundankulam Nuclear Power Plant project. And trade and investment agreements between India and Russia have been progressing, with a proposed free trade agreement under discussion between India and the Eurasian Economic Union. Additionally, both nations are focused on strengthening banking ties to facilitate smoother trade transactions. And in terms of industrial and technological collaboration, India and Russia are working together on various initiatives. Notably, they are jointly producing high-speed electric trains as a part of the Make in India initiative. And India remains a key supplier of affordable medicines to Russia, contributing significantly to the pharmaceutical sector. This expanding cooperation reflects the growing strategic and economic partnership between India and Russia across the diverse sectors. So now let's get back to our question here. Which energy resource is Russia a key supplier of India? So here the options are solar energy and biofuels, natural gas and petroleum products, coal, crude oil, uranium and fertilizers, and wind energy and geothermal energy. So as we have discussed earlier, here the correct answer is option C, which is coal, crude oil, uranium and fertilizers. Now let's move on to the next question. India is Russia's second largest economic partner after which country? So as we have discussed earlier, China is the first economic partner of Russia before India. Now moving on to the next question. Which of the following is a key aspect of industrial and technological collaboration between India and Russia? Option A is joint development of electric vehicles, and option B is joint production of high-speed electric trains under Make in India initiative, and option C is joint development of space exploration technologies, and option D is joint production of commercial aircraft. So here option B is the correct answer, as it is a joint production of high-speed electric trains under the Make in India initiative. So let's move on to the next question. What is the significant about Prime Minister Modi's visit to Kuwait in 2021? So here the question is asked about the India and Kuwait relations. So before answering this question, let's get into the topic. India and Kuwait relations have been deepened significantly with Prime Minister Modi's visit to Kuwait, marking the first Indian Prime Ministerial visit to the country since 1981. And during this historic visit, PM Modi was awarded Kuwait's highest honor, the Order of Mubarak Al-Kabir, which underscoring the strengthening of bilateral ties. The visit also reflects India's broader strategy of outreach to all Gulf Cooperation Council countries, emphasizing India's strategic engagement with the region. And here, the bilateral relations between India and Kuwait are very strong, particularly through people-to-people ties, with approximately 5 lakh Indian living and working in Kuwait. Historically, Kuwait has been a significant trade hub for India, and the Indian rupee was legal tender in Kuwait until 1961, laying the foundation for long-standing trade relations. And when coming to in terms of trade and energy cooperation, the economic ties between two nations are robust, and the bilateral trade has exceeded $10 billion with Kuwait, playing a crucial role in India's energy security. And here, the Kuwait is the India's 6th largest crude oil supplier and the 4th largest LPG supplier, ensuring a steady supply of vital energy resources. And on coming to the strategic and defense cooperation front, a new partnership was announced during the visit to blockbuster ties, including a memorandum of understanding for defense cooperation, which is expected to enhance the both countries' security collaboration. However, regional geopolitical context poses challenges to the relationship. Ongoing turmoil in West Asia, particularly the Israeli-Gaza conflict and instability in Syria, has created uncertainty in regional peace. Furthermore, regional initiatives like I2U2, India, Israel, United Arab Emirates and the US, and IMEC, India, Middle East, Europe corridor face instability due to the shifting geopolitical dynamics. And these challenges, along with global power shifts, may lead to leadership vacuum in West Asia, making regional security a complex issue for India and Kuwait to navigate. And despite all these challenges, India-Kuwait relations continue to evolve with shared interests in trade and also in energy, defense and regional stability at the forefront. Now, let's get back to our question here. What is the significant about the Prime Minister Modi's visit to Kuwait in 2021? And here the options are: it was the first Indian Prime Ministerial visit to Kuwait in 50 years. And the second option is: it was the first Indian Prime Ministerial visit to Kuwait since 1981. And option C is: the visit marked the signing of a free trade agreement between India and Kuwait. And option D is: it was the first visit by an Indian Prime Minister to Kuwait in the post-COVID era. So as we have discussed earlier, here the option B is correct answer. It says that it was the first Indian Prime Ministerial visit to Kuwait since 1981. And moving on to the next question. What was the historical significance of Kuwait in India's trade relations? And here the options are: Kuwait was trade hub for India and the Indian rupee was legal tender until 1961. And option B is: Kuwait was India's first trading partner in the Gulf region. And option C is: India's first oil supplies came from Kuwait. And the final option is: Kuwait was the first Gulf country to establish diplomatic relations with India. So as we have discussed earlier, Kuwait, option A is the correct answer, which says Kuwait was a trade hub for India and the Indian rupee was legal tender until 1961. And now moving on to the next question. What is the route taken by Chennai and Vladivostok Eastern Maritime Corridor? So here the question is asked about the Chennai-Vladivostok Eastern Maritime Corridor. So before answering this question, let's get into the topic. Chennai-Vladivostok Eastern Maritime Corridor is a significant initiative which connects the South India with Russia's Far East and reducing cargo transit time by up to 16 days and cutting the distance by 40%. And this enhanced route makes trade between India and Russia more efficient, facilitating smoother and faster exchanges. And this corridor spans from the Sea of Japan to the Korean Peninsula, then through the South China Sea, Strait of Malacca and the Bay of Bengal, ultimately reaching the Chennai. And the major ports along the route include Dalian, Shanghai, Hong Kong, Ho Chi Minh City, Singapore, Kuala Lumpur, Bangkok, Dhaka, Colombo, and Chennai, which serve as a key nodes for the flow of goods. And in addition to the Chennai-Vladivostok corridor, India is engaged in several other key maritime corridors that bolster its connectivity and trade. So now let's see about those corridors. See, the first one is International North-South Transport Corridor, and this is 7,200 kilometer route which connects India to Russia and Europe via Iran, and providing an alternative to the Suez Canal. Notably, in 2024, Russia sent a coal to India through this route for the first time, highlighting its growing importance for energy and goods transportation. And the another one is India Middle East Europe Economic Corridor. This corridor links India and the Middle East and Europe through a mix of rail, road and sea. It is designed to include high-speed data cables, electricity grids and hydrogen pipelines, making it a multifaceted route for trade and energy. And the other one is Northern Sea Route. And the Northern Sea Route is an Arctic shipping route connecting the Barents Sea and the Kara Sea to the Bering Strait. This route cuts transit times by 50% compared to the Suez Canal, making it an attractive option for shipping, especially for energy imports like the Russian oil and coal. Its strategic significance for India is growing as energy demands from Russia continue to rise. And together, these maritime corridors offer India enhanced trade opportunities, improving the energy security and strengthen the global connectivity, positioning India as central player in the global logistics and energy markets. So now here let's get back to our question. What is the route taken by China-Vladivostok Eastern Maritime Corridor? And here the options are: option A, from Indian Ocean, Arabian Sea, Gulf of Aden, Strait of Malacca, South China Sea, Korean Peninsula, Sea of Japan. And option B is Sea of Japan, Korean Peninsula, South China Sea, Strait of Malacca, Bay of Bengal and Chennai. And the option C is Bay of Bengal, Indian Ocean, Red Sea, Mediterranean Sea, Atlantic Ocean. And option D is Bay of Bengal, Strait of Hormuz, Arabian Sea, Malacca Strait and South China Sea. So as we have discussed earlier, here option B is correct answer, as the corridor spans from the Sea of Japan to Korean Peninsula, South China Sea, Strait of Malacca, Bay of Bengal and finally to the Chennai. So now let's get to another question. Which of the following features is a part of India Middle East Europe Economic Corridor? So options are high-speed data cables, electricity grids and hydrogen pipelines. And option B is military bases for international cooperation. And option C is a dedicated express cargo lane for pharmaceuticals. And option D is a rail network for domestic Indian cargo only. So here option A is the correct answer, as we have discussed earlier. High-speed data cables, electricity grids and hydrogen pipelines, making it a multifaceted route for trade and energy. So now let's move on to the next question. Why is the Northern Sea route significant for India? And here the options are: it reduces the cost of transporting goods from Europe to India. And option B is it provides an alternate route for oil and coal imports from Russia to India. And option C is it links India directly to the Pacific Ocean for enhanced trade with East Asia. And option D is it bypasses the need for maritime trade with China. So as we have discussed earlier, here option B is the correct answer, as it provides an alternate route for oil and coal imports from China to India, and it cuts the transport by 50% compared to the Suez Canal, and also the time is also saved here. Now moving on to the next question. Which of the following countries joined BRICS in 2024? So here the question is asked about the BRICS summit. So before answering this question, let's discuss about the recent BRICS summit. See, BRICS is an acronym of Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa, which is a group of leading emerging economics that holds significant influence on regional and global affairs. And this grouping was formed informally in 2006 during a meeting at the G8 Outreach Summit in Russia, and initially as BRIC consisting of 4 founding countries, which are Brazil, Russia, India and China. The first formal BRIC summit took place in Ekaterinburg, Russia in 2009, and in 2010, South Africa was invited to join, officially transforming BRIC into BRICS. A major milestone in the group's development occurred in 2014 during the 6th BRICS summit in Fortaleza, Brazil, when the New Development Bank (NDB) was created to finance infrastructure and sustainable development projects in emerging economies. The New Development Bank and the Contingent Reserve Arrangement are the key financial entities within BRICS, which is aimed at promoting economic stability and investment while providing an alternative to institutions like the World Bank and the IMF. And this aligns with the BRICS objective to challenge the economic dominance of North America and Western Europe. The group further expanded in 2024 by inviting Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, Saudi Arabia and the UAE. underscoring its growing influence and appeal as a platform for countries seeking stronger economic and strategic partnerships. And the expansion of BRICS marks a significant shift toward enhancing the global South's role on the world stage, both economically and politically. So now let's get back to our question here. Which of the following countries joined BRICS in 2024? And here the options are Turkey, Argentina, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, UAE. And option B is Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, Saudi Arabia and UAE. Option C is Mexico, South Africa, Iran, Russia and Argentina. And option D is Argentina, Brazil, Turkey, South Africa and Egypt. So as we have discussed earlier, here option B is correct answer, which says that Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, Saudi Arabia and UAE are the countries which joined the BRICS in 2024. Now moving on to the next question. What are the main financial entities within BRICS? So here the question is asked about the financial entities within the BRICS, and options are option A, International Monetary Fund and the World Bank, and option B is New Development Bank and Contingent Reserve Arrangement, and option C is BRICS Development Fund and Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, and option D is International Bank for Reconstruction and Development and BRICS Reserve Bank. So here option B is the correct answer, which is New Development Bank and the Contingent Reserve Arrangement. Now moving on to the next question. Where was the 16th conference of the parties, which is in short COP16, to the UN Convention to combat desertification was held? So here the question is asked about COP16. So before answering this question, let's know about COP16. See, the 16th Conference of Parties to the UN Convention to Combat Desertification is scheduled to take place on 2nd to 13th December 2024 in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. And this event holds significant importance as it marks the 30th anniversary of UN Convention to Combat the Desertification and is the first COP to be hosted in the Middle East and North Africa region, an area severely affected by desertification. And it is established in 1994, and the UN Convention to Combat the Desertification has 197 parties, including 196 countries and the European Union, with the goal of combating desertification and land degradation and drought, particularly in dryland regions. And India has been a signatory since 1994 and ratified the convention in 1996. Every 2 years, COP meetings are held to assess progress towards these goals. The outreaching objective of the period from 2018 to 2030 is to achieve the land degradation neutrality, to restore 1 billion hectares of land by 2030 and improve livelihoods of 1.3 billion people. And at COP16, India has outlined several significant contributions and commitments. And in 2024, as a part of its Plan for Mother campaign, over 1 billion saplings were planted to support land restoration efforts. And India has also emerged as a global leader in this area, committing to restore 26 million hectares of land under the Bond Challenge. With 22.5 million hectares already successfully restored, a key aspect of India's approach is its community-centric model, as exemplified by the Green India Mission, which emphasizes local participation and also the integration of traditional knowledge. Additionally, initiatives like Amrit Sarovar Initiative and the Green Credit Program aim to improve the drought resilience, water conservation and further land restoration efforts, reflecting the India's commitment to sustainable environmental practices on the global scale. Now, let's get back to our question here. Where was the 16th Conference of the Parties COP16 to the Union Convention of Combat Desertification was held? So as we have discussed earlier, here option B is the correct answer, which says Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Now moving on to the next question. What is the focus of India's contribution at COP16? See, here they are asking the India's focus in the COP16 when coming to the last meeting held in December 2024. So here the options are land restoration, water conservation, mitigating climate change through emission reductions, green energy development and technology sharing, promoting renewable energy sources. So here option A is the correct answer, because India focus is mainly to land restoration and water conservation, and through some initiatives which are like Amrit Sarovar Initiative and also the Green Credit Program. So now let's move on to the next question. Which organization released the India State of Forest Report 2023? So here the question is asked about the Indian State of Forest Report 2023. So before answering this question, let's get into the topic. The India State of Forest Report 2023, released by the Minister Bhupender Yadav and published by the Forest Survey of India, provides a comprehensive assessment of India's forest and tree resources using satellite data. This report covers a wide range of factors, including forest cover, tree cover, mangroves, carbon stock, and agroforestry, and also more. And the total forest and tree cover in India stands at 8,27,357 square kilometer, which is 25.17% of the country's land area. And of this, forest cover accounts for 7,15,343 square kilometers, which is 21.76%. And the tree cover spans 1,12,014 square kilometers, which contributes 3.41%. And this marks an increase of 1,445 square kilometers since 2021 report. And notably, several states have shown significant increases in their forest report and tree cover. And Chhattisgarh leads with an increase of 684 square kilometers, followed by Uttar Pradesh with 559 square kilometers. And in terms of forest cover alone, Mizoram has contributed 242 square kilometers to the overall increase. And the largest forest and tree cover is found in Madhya Pradesh, which has 85,724 square kilometers, and Arunachal Pradesh with 67,083 square kilometers. And other significant statistics include mangrove cover of 4,992 square kilometers, in which the carbon stock of 7,285.5 million tons, an increase of 81.5 million tons since 2021, and a bamboo area of 1,54,670 square kilometers with an increase of 5,227 square kilometers. And additionally, the growing stock of the country forests is reported to be 6,430 million cubic meters. And these findings highlights India's progress in forest management and conservation efforts, contributing the positively country's environmental sustainability goals. So now here let's get back to our question. Which organization released the India State of Forest Report 2023? Here the options are option A, Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change and Forest Survey of India. Option C is Indian Council of Forestry Research and Education, and option D is Ministry of Rural Development. So here option B is the correct answer, as Forest Survey of India has released and published the Indian State of Forest Report 2023. Now moving on to the next question. Which state recorded the highest increase in forest and tree cover as per Indian State of Forest Report 2023? So here the options are Uttar Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Maharashtra and Madhya Pradesh. And here the answer is option B, which is Chhattisgarh, with highest increase in forest and tree cover area. Now moving on to the next question. Which state has the largest forest and tree cover in India according to the Indian State of Forest Report 2023? And here the options are Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, Arunachal Pradesh and Odisha. And the correct answer is Madhya Pradesh, as it has the largest forest and tree cover area. So moving on to the next question. Which state recorded the highest increase in forest cover specifically according to the Indian State of Forest Report 2023? And here the options are Mizoram, Uttar Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Karnataka. And the answer is option A, which is Mizoram. Now moving on to the next question. Which organization established the Champions of the Earth Award? And so here the question is asked about the Champions of the Earth Award. So before answering this question, let's know about the Champions of the Earth Award. See, it was established by the United Nations Environmental Programme in 2005 to honor individuals and organizations for their innovative actions in addressing significant environmental changes such as climate change, biodiversity loss and pollution. The award is divided into several categories, each recognizing different contributions to environmental sustainability. And these categories include policy leadership, which acknowledges the public sector leaders who shape the environmental policies and also the global agreements. And the second category is inspiration and action, which honor those who inspire and drive change through advocacy and practical action. And the third one is entrepreneurial vision, recognizing entrepreneurs who create sustainable solutions and eco-friendly businesses. And the fourth one is science and innovation, which celebrates scientists and innovators advancing technology and research to solve the environmental problems. And for the 2024 edition, the award categories include lifetime achievement, honoring long-term dedication to environmental conservation, and policy leadership, which recognizes leaders who have influenced environmental policy, and inspiration and action for those who drive positive change through action and advocacy. And then science and innovation for advancements in environmental technology and research. And comes the entrepreneurial vision, which acknowledges the enterprises with socially responsible and sustainable practices. Some of the notable 2024 laureates include Amy Bauer Cordalis, who is recognized for her river ecosystem restoration efforts that combine indigenous knowledge and scientific research. And then Gabriel Pon, honored for his environmental defense work against illegal logging in Romania's Carpathian Mountains. And Luki, leading China's afforestation projects to combat the desertification. And then Madhav Gadgil, a renowned ecologist focused on biodiversity conservation in the Western Ghats. And SECAM, a social enterprise which promoting the sustainable agriculture in Egypt. And Sonia Guajajra, Brazil's Minister of Indigenous Peoples who advocates for forest protection and indigenous rights. And these laureates are celebrated for their impactful work in environmental conservation and sustainability. Now let's get back to our question here. Which organization established the Champions of the Earth Award? So here the options are World Health Organization, United Nations Environment Program, United Nations Development Program, and then comes the Greenpeace. So here the correct option is option B, which says United Nations Environment Program. Now moving on to the next question. Which of the following categories is not a part of Champions of the Earth Award? And here the options are policy leadership, entrepreneurial vision, cultural heritage, science and innovation. So here the option C is the correct answer as it is not included in the Champions of the Earth Award. Now moving on to the next question. Which of the following is a notable laureate of the 2024 Champions of the Earth Award? Option 1, Greta Thunberg. Option B, Amy Bauer Cordalis. Option C, A.I. Gore. Option D, David Attenborough. So here the correct answer is option B, Amy Bauer Cordalis, who is awarded for her river ecosystem restoration efforts that combine the indigenous knowledge and scientific research. Now, moving on to the next question. What is the significance of sacred groves in ecological terms? So here the question is asked about the sacred groves. So before answering this question, let's get into the topic. See, sacred groves are forested areas dedicated to deities or spirits, traditionally protected by local communities due to spiritual beliefs. These groves are essential for maintaining the natural vegetation and play a significant role in the ecological balance. And serving as spiritual links between humans and nature, sacred groves are not only places of religious importance but also crucial for biodiversity conservation, offering safe habitats for endangered species. And then coming to in India perspective, India is a home to over 50,000 of sacred groves which are vital for both cultural and ecological reasons. And the notable examples include Ma Palang in Meghalaya, sacred to Khasi people, those are the local tribes of Meghalaya, and then comes the Devvans in Himachal Pradesh and Sarpakavu in Kerala, which is dedicated to the snakes. And these sacred groves have a rich historical legacy dating back to ancient times with evidence found in rock art and civilizations and have been preserved through various religious practices that enforce in the bond between humans and the natural world. And however, sacred groves face significant threats including deforestation and cultural erosion, particularly as younger generations lose interest in traditional practices. In a recent Supreme Court judgment 2024, the court ruled to protect sacred groves in Rajasthan, recognizing their significance as a natural heritage and calling for legal measures to safeguard these vital ecological resources. So now let's get back to your question here. What is the significance of sacred groves in ecological terms? And the options given are, they are used for large-scale agriculture, and option B says that they serve as habitats for endangered species and preserve biodiversity. They are only spiritual spaces with no ecological role. They primarily help in timber production. So here as the question is asked with significant to the ecological terms, so here the option B is correct answer as they serve as habitats for endangered species and preserve the biodiversity. Now, moving on to the next question. Which community is associated with the Ma Palang sacred grove in Meghalaya? So, as we have discussed earlier, here the option B is the correct answer, which is Kashi. Now, moving on to the next question. Which of the following is an example of sacred groves dedicated to the snakes? So, here option C is the correct answer, Sarpakavu in Kerala. Moving on to the next question. What does Griha stands for? See, here the question is asked about, here the option B is correct answer, which says that Green Rating for Integrated Habitat Assessment. GRIHA stands for Green Rating for Integrated Habitat Assessment. So now let's discuss about it. Green Rating for Integrated Habitat Assessment is India's national green building rating system, and it is designed to assess the environmental sustainability of completed buildings, and it also developed by the Energy and Resource Institute in collaboration with the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy. and it is managed by Griha Council, which is responsible for the implementation and continuous updates of the system. And here Griha sets benchmarks for energy efficiency, water conservation and sustainable building design, focusing on creating resource efficient and climate responsive buildings. And it also evaluates buildings on various environmental parameters, ensuring that structures meet high standards for sustainability. And there are some initiatives which include a special initiative under Griha, which is the Building Fitness Indicator, a free self-assessment tool that helps organizations to evaluate the readiness of building workplaces for the challenges posed by COVID-19, including health and safety measures. And Griha aligns with India's climate goals under the Paris Agreement COP21 and plays a crucial role in the country's climate change strategy by promoting green building practices across the nation. So now let's get back to your question here. This one we have already know that Griha stands for Green Rating for Integrated Habitat Assessment. Now moving on to the next question. Which of the following is not a focus of the Griha rating system? So here the question is asked that which of the following area is not a focus area of Griha. So let's see the options first. Option A says that resource efficient building design. Option B is energy and water conservation. Option C, climate responsive architecture. And option D, maximizing the use of non-renewable materials. So as we have discussed earlier, first three are the focus areas of Griha rating system, but option D here is not a focus area of Griha, which is maximizing the use of non-renewable materials. So here the correct answer is option D. Now moving on to the next question. What are Santa Ana winds? So here the question is asked about Santa Ana winds, which we see in the Southern California. So now let's discuss about the Santa Ana winds. Santa Ana winds are dry, warm winds that originate from the Great Basin and move toward the Southern California, named after the Santa Ana Canyon. So these winds are formed due to the pressure differences between the Great Basin and California's coast, which causes the winds to travel from the deserts to the Pacific Ocean. So as the winds move on, they compress and heat up, raising temperatures and resulting in low humidity levels, often below 20%. And this creates a heightened risk of wildfires in the region. And these Santa Ana winds typically occur from October to January, with a peak season in winter. And their effects are particularly significant in terms of wildfire risk. The dry conditions and strong winds create ideal conditions for fires to spread quickly. And also in recent years, climate change has exacerbated the risk and making wildfires more frequent and severe in the affected areas. So now let's get back to your question. What are Santa Ana winds? Option A is cool moist winds from the Pacific Ocean. Option B is warm dry winds from the Great Basin to Southern California. Option C is wind from Gulf of Mexico affecting the US Southwest. Option D is seasonal winds coming from the Arctic region. So we have already known that option B is the correct answer, warm dry winds from the Great Basin to Southern California. Now let's move on to the next question. How are Santa Ana winds significant for wildfire risks? So here they are asking about the significant area with respect to the wildfire risk here. So now let's look at the options. They bring cool air that reduces the risk of wildfires. They increase temperatures and lower humidity, making wildfires more likely. They increase rainfall, helping to control the fires. And they weaken during wildfire season, reducing fire spread. So here option B is correct answer, because they increase the temperatures and lower the humidity levels, making the wildfires to more likely and spread more. So now moving on to the next question. Which countries in Africa are identified for green hydrogen development under the World Solar Report 2024? So as we see here that the question is asked about the World Solar Report 2024 based on World Solar Report 2024. So before answering this question, let's know about the World Solar Report 2024. So World Solar Report Series 2024, which is released by International Solar Alliance, in short ISA, at its 7th assembly, aims to analyze global solar growth and investments, technological advancements, and Africa's potential for green hydrogen development. And the report also highlights some significant areas, which include the significant growth in the solar capacity from a modest of 1.22 gigawatt in 2000, and the global solar capacity surged to 1418.97 gigawatts by 2023, reflecting a remarkable 40% of growth, with 34.583 gigawatts added in just 2023 alone. And in terms of energy investments, 2024 saw a 5% of increase with 3.1 trillion with clean energy investments, nearly doubling those in fossil fuels. And notably, solar energy continues to attract substantial investment, accounting for 59% of renewable energy investments. And the technological advancements, if we see here, they are also notable with monocrystalline solar PV modules achieving 24.9% efficiency, and also perovskite cells showing promise for higher efficiency and lower cost. Additionally, the report focuses on green hydrogen in Africa with target countries like Egypt, Morocco and Namibia aiming to decarbonize industries through electrolysis powered by the renewable energy here. Now let's come back to our question. Which countries in Africa are identified for green hydrogen development under the World Solar Report 2024? So here the options are: option A, South Africa, Kenya, Nigeria; option B, Egypt, Morocco and Namibia; option C, Nigeria, Egypt and Kenya; option D, Ethiopia, Egypt and Ghana. So as we have discussed earlier, option B is the correct answer, which says that Egypt, Morocco and Namibia are identified for green hydrogen development under the World Solar Report 2024 in Africa. So now let's move on to the next question. Which type of solar cells hold the promise of higher efficiency and lower cost in future as per the World Solar Report 2024? So here the options are: thin film solar cells; option B, monocrystalline solar PV modules; option C, perovskite cells; option D, polycrystalline solar cells. So as we have known earlier and we have discussed it, option C, which is perovskite cells, is the correct answer here. Moving on to the next question. Where is the headquarters of International Solar Alliance ISA located? So ISA releases the World Solar Report series. So here, where the headquarters of the ISA are located? So let's look at the options here. Option A, Geneva, Switzerland; option B, New York, USA; option C, New Delhi, India; and option D is London, UK. So here option C is the correct answer, which is New Delhi, India. Now moving on to the next question. Which of the following is the 12th major port of India and first port in India to be corporatized as a public company? So the options are Mumbai Port, Jawaharlal Nehru Port, Kamarajar Port, and lastly Visakhapatnam Port. So here let's know the answer first before discussing the topic. So here Kamarajar Port is the correct answer. It is the 12th major port of India and the first port in India to be corporatized, which is to be privatized as a public company. So now let's move on to the topic. See, Kamarajar Port, which is also known as Ennore Port, located 24 kilometers north of Chennai in Tamil Nadu, India. And it is the 12th major port of India and the first public company port. It was declared a major port in March 1999 under the Indian Ports Act 1908. And the port is owned and operated by the Chennai Port Trust, which also manages the port of Chennai. A unique feature of Kamarajar Port is that it is the only corporatized major port in India which is registered as a company, and it also operates under the landlord port model, which the port authority acts as a regulatory body and a landlord, while the private companies are responsible for cargo handling and port operations. This model allows for greater efficiency and private sector involvement in the port operations. So now let's get back to our question. What is a unique feature of Kamarajar Port, Ennore Port, compared to the other major ports in India? So here the options are: it is the only port in India with a dual management structure, and option B is it is India's only corporatized major port registered as a company, and option C is it is the largest port in India by area, and option D is it operates entirely under the public-private partnership. So here the correct option is unique feature when compared to other ports is option B, because it is India's only corporatized major port registered as a company here. Now moving on to the next question. Which of the following statements is true about the Ganga River dolphin? So here the question is asked about the Ganga River dolphin, which is also known as Platanista gangetica. So now let's discuss about it. See, the Ganga River dolphin, also known as the tiger of the Ganges, was discovered in 1801 and is found in the freshwater system of the Ganges, Brahmaputra and Meghna rivers across India, Nepal and Bangladesh. And there is a unique species which is blind and relies on the ultrasonic sounds to hunt and navigate, a process known as echolocation. And this unique process in which this species is blind and relies on the ultrasonic sounds to hunt, and this process is called echolocation. And the dolphin typically surfaces to breathe every 30 to 120 seconds and is often seen alone or in small groups, usually with a mother and a calf. And interestingly, females are larger than males and give birth to one calf every 2 to 3 years. And locally it is called susu because of the distinctive sound it makes when breathing. The Ganga River dolphin is currently endangered according to the IUCN Red List, and is protected under India's Wildlife Protection Act and the Convention on International Trade and in Endangered Species of Wildlife, Fauna and Flora. So, to raise awareness about this conservation, National Ganga River Dolphin Day is celebrated on October 5th of each year. Now, coming back to our question, which of the following statements is true about the Ganga River dolphin here? Looking at option A, the Ganga River dolphin is found only in the Ganga River system in India, and option B is it is known for its exceptional vision using its eyesight to locate the prey, and option C is the Ganga River dolphin is blind and uses ultrasonic sounds to detect the prey, and option D is it is a freshwater dolphin found in Ganga, Brahmaputra and Meghna river systems in India, Nepal and Bangladesh. So here coming to option A is incorrect because it's not only found in India but also in the Nepal and in Bangladesh too. So the first one is incorrect, and coming to the next one, it is known for its exceptional, it's also false because it is blind and uses the ultrasonic waves to detect the prey. So option C is the correct answer here. Now moving on to the next question. Which of the following is the traditional name for Ganga River dolphin referring to the sound it makes? So as we have discussed earlier, it's option B, Susu. Now moving on to the next question. Which of the following regions is considered the most important for the Ganga River dolphin's habitat? So here Ganga, Brahmaputra, Meghna river systems is the most important habitat for the Ganga River dolphins. And by this topic, we will end today's video on December Current Affairs 2024 and hope this video is helpful for your preparation. Thank you.